Welcome back to Sleepy Facts. Take a slow breath. Relax your mind. Rest smarter as we gently drift into tonight's story. If you'd like more quiet stories like this, you are welcome to subscribe. And if there is a topic you want to hear next, just whisper it in the comments. Tonight, we journey back through deep time, back through millions upon millions of years, back to when the world was unrecognizable, when continents rested in different positions, when the air was thicker and warmer, when creatures beyond our wildest imagination walked the earth. Close your eyes and let time dissolve around you. Let the present fade. We are going back before cities and civilization, before humans walked upright, before mammals ruled the land, back to the age of dinosaurs. This is where our story begins. But to understand the age of dinosaurs, we must first understand how much time we are traveling through. Take a slow breath. Consider this. If you could compress all of Earth's history into a single calendar year, with the planet forming on January 1st, humans would not appear until December 31st. Not at noon, not even at dinner time, but at approximately 11:36 p.m., just 24 minutes before midnight. All of recorded human history would occupy the final 60 seconds of the year. The dinosaurs, by comparison, would stride onto the scene in mid-December. They would dominate the planet for weeks and weeks of this compressed year. They would rule the Earth for so long that early dinosaurs would seem as ancient to late dinosaurs as late dinosaurs seem to us now. We are looking back across an almost incomprehensible gulf of time. Not thousands of years, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds of millions of years. Time so vast that mountains rose and eroded away. Oceans opened and closed. Continents drifted thousands of miles across the planet's surface. Let this vastness wash over you. Rest in the knowledge that we are about to explore a world that existed for so long, changed so much, and vanished so completely that only fragments of stone remain to tell us it was ever there at all. The story of dinosaurs begins in the Triassic period, approximately 252 million years ago. Take a deep breath. Let your mind reach back through time, back through centuries, through millennia, through millions of years. We are traveling to a point so distant that the journey itself is almost impossible to comprehend. Picture the Earth at that time. All the continents are joined together into one vast supercontinent called Pangaea. The word means all Earth in Greek. From space, looking down at this ancient planet, it would look like a giant irregular sea shape surrounded by endless ocean. There are no Atlantic or Indian Oceans yet, no Mediterranean Sea, just Pangaea and the vast global ocean called Panthalassa, meaning all sea. This configuration is almost alien to us. We know a world of separate continents, of ocean basins between them, but 250 million years ago, you could have walked from what is now South America to Africa to India to Antarctica to Australia to Antarctica without ever getting your feet wet. All land was connected. All terrestrial animals could theoretically migrate anywhere. The interior of Pangaea is hot and dry. Imagine the center of this vast landmass, thousands of miles from any ocean. The moderating influence of the sea cannot reach here. Summer temperatures soar. Winter brings cold, but little moisture. Vast deserts stretch for thousands of miles. Dunes rise and shift in hot winds. Rocky badlands are scoured by occasional flash floods. Salt flats glitter under the brutal sun. This is not a dead land, though. Life exists even in these harsh places. Reptiles adapted to aridity bask on hot rocks. They hunt in the early morning and late evening when temperatures are bearable. They burrow underground during the heat of the day. Insects shelter in the shade of rocks. Plants with deep roots tap underground water. Seeds lie dormant for years, waiting for rain. When it does rain, the desert briefly blooms. Green shoots emerge, flowers open. Animals emerge to feed and reproduce before the water vanishes again. The edges of Pangaea tell a different story. Near the coasts and along the paths of rivers flowing from interior mountains, conditions are milder. Forests grow. Conifers, the distant ancestors of modern pines and firs, reach toward the sky. Their needle-like leaves are adaptations to conserve water, useful even in wetter climates. Cycads stand in groves, their thick trunks and palm-like crowns giving them a superficially tropical appearance, though they are not related to palms at all. Ferns carpet the forest floor, their fronds uncurling in the shade. Ginkgos, ancient trees that still exist today almost unchanged, spread fan-shaped leaves. And into these forests, something moves, something watching, something waiting. Mountains rise where continental plates have collided to form this supercontinent. The collision of Africa and North America, of South America and Africa, of the various land masses that would become Asia. These collisions push rock upward, creating mountain ranges that rival the modern Himalayas. From these mountains, rivers flow. They carry sediment eroded from the peaks. They create fertile valleys and floodplains. They support forests and wetlands and diverse ecosystems. Rivers are highways for life. Animals gather at their banks to drink. Fish swim in their waters. Plants thrive in the moisture. And along these rivers, we find evidence of the diversity of Triassic life. This is a world recovering from catastrophe. Just before the Triassic began, the greatest mass extinction in Earth's history occurred. The Permian-Triassic extinction, sometimes called the Great Dying. Something went terribly wrong. The exact causes are still debated. Massive volcanic eruptions in what is now Siberia, release of methane from ocean sediments, ocean acidification, global warming. Whatever the cause or causes, the result was devastation beyond anything seen before or since. 90% of marine species vanished. Trilobites, those armored arthropods that had scuttled across ocean floors for over 270 million years, went extinct. Coral reefs collapsed. The oceans became almost lifeless zones. On land, 70% of vertebrate species disappeared. Entire groups of animals vanished. Ecosystems collapsed. The world became a quieter, emptier place. But life, as it always does, recovered. Slowly at first. Ecosystems were simplified. A few hardy species spread widely, occupying empty niches. And then gradually, diversification began again. Natural selection experimented. New body plans appeared. New ways of moving, eating, reproducing, surviving. In the early Triassic, the dominant land animals were not dinosaurs. They were synapsids, the distant ancestors of mammals. They had evolved in the Permian. They had survived the extinction, barely. And in the early Triassic, they began to diversify again. Lystrosaurus was one of the most common animals in the early Triassic. Pause for a moment and picture it, about the size of a large dog or small pig. Barrel-shaped body supported on short, sturdy legs. a blunt head with a horny beak instead of front teeth, two small tusks protruding from the upper jaw. It looks strange to our eyes. Not quite mammal, not quite reptile, something in between. Lystrosaurus was a herbivore. It used its beak to dig up roots and tubers. It lived in burrows, sheltering from the heat and cold. Fossils of Lystrosaurus have been found on multiple continents, from South Africa to Antarctica to India. This wide distribution is evidence for Pangaea. This single species could spread across the entire supercontinent. Picture a group of Lystrosaurus emerging from their burrows at dawn. The air is cool. The sun has not yet heated the land. They move slowly, stiffly at first. They make their way to a patch of vegetation and begin to dig, their beaks tearing at roots, their tusks helping to loosen soil. They feed quickly, urgently, knowing the heat will drive them back underground soon. Other animals moved through the early Triassic landscape. Thrinaxodon, a small synapsid only about a foot long. Its fossils show evidence of whiskers and possibly fur. Its skeleton suggests it was active and alert. It may have hunted insects and small vertebrates. It lived in burrows, sometimes sharing them with other individuals. It cared for its young, based on fossils showing adults and juveniles together. It was, in many ways, more like a mammal than a reptile, and indeed, it was on the lineage leading to mammals. Our distant ancestor, in a sense, and there were others. Early archosaurs, the group that would give rise to crocodiles, pterosaurs, and dinosaurs. These early archosaurs were diverse. Some were quadrupedal. Some were capable of bipedal locomotion when needed. Some were herbivores. Some were predators. They were experimenting evolutionarily with different body plans and lifestyles. Euparkeria was one such early archosaur, about 2 feet long, lightly built, long legs suggesting it was a swift runner. It moved on all fours normally, but could rear up on its hind legs when running at speed. This was an important innovation. Bipedalism would become one of the defining features of dinosaurs. And here, in the early Triassic, we see the beginnings of it. Picture Euparkeria hunting along the bank of a river. Early morning, mist rising from the water. The small archosaur pauses, alert. It has spotted prey, a small synapsid perhaps, or a lizard-like reptile basking on a rock. Euparkeria lowers its body, approaches slowly, then suddenly lunges forward, rising onto its hind legs, its front limbs tucked against its body, running at full speed. The prey darts away, but Euparkeria is faster. A brief chase, a snap of jaws, a struggle, and then stillness. The hunt is successful. These were not dinosaurs. Not yet. But among the archosaurs, changes were beginning. Natural selection was favoring certain traits. Longer hind legs for more efficient bipedal locomotion. More upright posture with the legs positioned directly beneath the body rather than sprawling out to the sides. Changes in the hip and ankle joints to support this posture. Changes in metabolism to support a more active lifestyle. Changes in the inner ear for better balance. Changes in the brain for better coordination. Small adjustments, generation after generation, accumulating over millions of years. Evolution does not have goals. It does not aim toward anything. But under the pressure of survival and reproduction, certain traits become more common because they provide advantages. And in the archosaurs of the Triassic, the traits that would define dinosaurs were accumulating. And then, in the middle to late Triassic, around 230 to 200 40 million years ago, the first true dinosaurs appeared. Let time move forward. 10 million years, 20 million years. Landscapes change. Mountains erode. Rivers shift their courses. Species come and go. And among the archosaurs, something new emerges. They were small, these first dinosaurs. The earliest dinosaurs we know of were about the size of a modern dog or smaller. Some were as small as chickens. They were not the giants that would come later. They were modest creatures. Unimpressive, perhaps, if you could have seen them in life. But they possessed certain advantages, certain innovations that would, in time, prove extraordinarily successful. They walked on two legs, bipedal locomotion. This freed their front limbs for other purposes, grasping prey, manipulating objects. Later, in birds, these front limbs would become wings, but that was still far in the future. Their hind legs were positioned directly beneath their bodies rather than sprawling out to the sides like a lizard's. This upright posture was more efficient for locomotion. It required less energy to move. It allowed for sustained activity. It was one of the key innovations that would allow dinosaurs to become dominant. Their ankles were designed like simple hinges, allowing forward and backward movement, but little rotation. This might seem limiting, but it made their gait more efficient. Each step was in line with their body's direction of travel. No energy was wasted in sideways motion. Their hip sockets were open holes rather than shallow cups. The head of the femur fit into this hole in a ball and socket joint. This provided a strong attachment while allowing a full range of motion. It supported the weight of the body directly through the legs into the ground. These are technical details, skeletal anatomy, but they mattered. These innovations allowed dinosaurs to move efficiently, to grow large without collapsing under their own weight, to be active for extended periods, to succeed in ways that other reptiles could not. Eoraptor was one of these early dinosaurs. Its name means dawn stealer or dawn plunderer. It lived in what is now the Ishigolasto Formation in northwestern Argentina about 231 million years ago. The rocks that preserve its fossils were once part of a floodplain. Rivers flowed through a landscape of ferns and conifers. Volcanic ash occasionally fell from erupting volcanoes in the mountains to the west. This ash buried plants and animals, preserving them as fossils. Millions of years later, erosion would expose these fossils, and paleontologists would find them and piece together the story. Eoraptor was small, about 3 feet long from the tip of its snout to the end of its tail, perhaps weighing only 20 to 40 pounds, about the size of a medium dog. You could have picked it up if you could have caught it. Its skull was long and narrow. Large eye sockets suggest good vision. Inside its jaws were different types of teeth. Some were sharp and serrated, suitable for cutting meat. Others were more leaf-shaped, suitable for processing plants. This dental diversity suggests Eoraptor was omnivorous. It ate whatever was available: small animals, insects, eggs, plants, seeds, an opportunistic diet, a flexible approach to survival. Its hands had 5 fingers, though 2 were reduced. The 3 main fingers bore curved claws, useful for grasping prey or climbing. Its hind legs were long relative to its body size, suggesting it was a swift runner. Its tail was long and tapering, useful for balance when running. Picture Eoraptor moving through a late Triassic forest, Dawn is breaking. Golden light filters through the canopy of conifers and tree ferns. The air is cool and moist. A mist hangs over a nearby stream. Eoraptor emerges from the undergrowth where it has spent the night, sheltering among ferns. It pauses, alert. Its head swivels, eyes scanning for movement. Its sense of smell detects something. It moves forward, cautiously, body low. Its tail extends behind, perfectly balanced. Each foot placement is careful, quiet. It is hunting. A rustling in the leaf litter. Eoraptor freezes, waits. There, a small synapsid, perhaps a species of cynodont, emerges from beneath a fallen log. It is focused on its own search for food. Unaware of the dinosaur, Eoraptor explodes into motion. A few rapid strides, jaws open. The cynodont tries to flee, but Eoraptor is faster. A quick snap, it's over. Eoraptor shakes its head, breaking its prey's spine, then begins to feed. Small, quick bites, always alert. Other predators might be attracted by the commotion. It is best to eat quickly and move on. This scene played out countless times in the late Triassic. Small dramas of predator and prey, life and death, the daily struggle for survival. And Eoraptor was one player among many. Not dominant, not special, just another predator trying to survive in a dangerous world. Herrerasaurus was another early dinosaur from the same region and time as Eoraptor. But Herrerasaurus was larger, much larger, 10 to 20 feet long from nose to tail, weighing perhaps 500 to 1,000 pounds, built like a predator, a serious predator. Its skull was long and narrow, built for strength. Its jaws were lined with sharp, backward curving, serrated teeth, like steak knives, designed to pierce and tear flesh. The jaw joint allowed the mouth to open wide, useful for biting large prey. Strong jaw muscles attached to crests on the skull, providing powerful bite force. Its neck was strong and flexible, allowing it to shake and tear at carcasses. Its front limbs were short compared to its hind legs, but robust. Each hand had 3 main fingers ending in large curved claws. These hands were weapons. They could grasp struggling prey, hold it in place while the jaws delivered killing bites. Its hind legs were long and powerful. The femur was slightly shorter than the tibia and fibula, a proportion associated with fast running in modern animals. Herrerasaurus was built for pursuit, for chasing down prey, for sustained running. Its tail was long and muscular, making up nearly half its body length. The tail was held horizontally when moving, acting as a counterbalance to the body and head. This allowed Herrerasaurus to make sharp turns while running without losing balance, essential for a pursuit predator. Picture Herrerasaurus moving through a late Triassic landscape. Late afternoon, the sun is low, casting long shadows. A dry riverbed winds through a sparse forest of conifers. Herrerasaurus walks along the riverbed, moving with its body horizontal, tail extended behind. Its head is up, alert. It is searching. In the distance, it spots movement. A group of large synapsids, perhaps Canemaeria, massive herbivores the size of modern bison. They are grazing on cycads near a pool of water remaining in the riverbed. Most are adults, weighing a ton or more. Too large and dangerous for Herrerasaurus to attack. But there are juveniles with the group, young animals, perhaps a few hundred pounds. Possible prey. Herrerasaurus lowers its body slightly. It begins to approach, moving slowly, using the sparse vegetation for cover. It is downwind of the herd. They cannot smell it. It waits for an opportunity. One of the juveniles wanders away from the group, attracted by a patch of particularly lush vegetation. It is not far from the adults, but it is not under their direct protection. This is Herrerasaurus's chance. The dinosaur explodes from cover. Its powerful legs drive it forward. It is fast, faster than the heavy-bodied synapsid. The juvenile sees the predator and tries to run back to the herd, but Herrerasaurus cuts it off. A leap. Jaws close on the juvenile's back. Claws grip its flanks. The weight and momentum of the dinosaur brings the synapsid down. They crash to the ground in a cloud of dust. The juvenile screams. The adults in the herd turn, alerted. They begin to move toward the attack. Herrerasaurus must kill quickly. Its jaws seek a vital area. The neck, a powerful bite. A shake. The juvenile struggles weaken. Stop. Herrerasaurus begins to drag the carcass away, moving quickly. The adults are approaching, bellowing challenges, but they are slower than the dinosaur. Herrerasaurus retreats to a safe distance, dragging its kill. Then it begins to feed, tearing chunks of flesh, swallowing them whole. It must eat quickly. Other scavengers will smell the blood. Other predators will come. This is the reality of life as a predator. Dangerous, uncertain. A successful hunt today does not guarantee success. Tomorrow, an injury can mean starvation. There is no safety, only survival or death. These were the first dinosaurs. Small predators and omnivores moving through a world dominated by other animals. They were successful, yes, but they were not dominant. Not yet. Throughout the late Triassic, dinosaurs remained relatively small and uncommon. They were one group among many competing for resources and survival. They shared the landscape with many other reptile groups. Phytosaurs, which looked remarkably like modern crocodiles, hunted in rivers and lakes. If you could see a phytosaur, you would think it was a crocodile. Long snout, teeth protruding from the sides of the jaws, armored skin, semi-aquatic lifestyle. But phytosaurs were not related to crocodiles. They were a separate lineage that independently evolved a similar body plan. This is convergent evolution. Different lineages finding similar solutions to similar problems. Etosaurs, armored archosaurs covered in bony plates and spikes, rooted in the soil for plants and invertebrates. They looked like armored pigs with armor. Some were small, dog-sized. Others grew to 15 feet long. Their armor protected them from predators. Their strong jaws and teeth allowed them to eat tough vegetation and dig in hard soil. Rauisuchians were large predatory archosaurs. These were the top predators in many late Triassic ecosystems. Some species reached 25 feet in length and weighed a ton or more. They moved on all fours but held their legs upright beneath their bodies like dinosaurs. Their skulls were massive, filled with dagger-like teeth. They could probably take down even the largest herbivores. If you could have visited the late Triassic, you might not have paid much attention to the small bipedal dinosaurs running through the underbrush. You would have been more concerned with the massive Rauisuchians and other large predators. The dinosaurs seemed insignificant by comparison, but things were about to change. The world was about to end for the Rauisuchians and many other groups. And in the aftermath, the dinosaurs would rise. Around 201 million years ago, the Triassic period ended with another mass extinction. Not as severe as the Permian Triassic extinction, but still devastating. Many archosaur groups vanished. The large predators disappeared, the armored herbivores went extinct, and in the aftermath, dinosaurs diversified. They expanded into ecological roles left empty by the extinction. They evolved into new forms, larger forms, more specialized forms. They spread across Pangaea, adapting to different environments and climates. The Jurassic period had begun, and with it, the true age of dinosaurs. Take a breath. Let the weight of time settle around you. We have moved from 252 million years ago to 201 million years ago. We have traveled through 51 million years. That is longer than the time from the extinction of the dinosaurs to the present day. And we are just beginning the story. The Jurassic period lasted from 201 to 145 million years ago. 56 million years. A span of time almost beyond comprehension. To put this in perspective, if the entire Jurassic period were compressed into a single year, each day would represent 153,000 years. Each hour would represent 6,400 years. All of recorded human history, going back to the earliest written records, would fit into about 45 minutes of that year. Mountains rose during the Jurassic and wore away. Erosion carried material from high peaks down to valleys and oceans. Sediment accumulated. Forests grew on the sediment. Animals lived and died and were buried. The sediment turned to rock. The rock was uplifted, eroded again. The cycle repeated, over and over. 56 million years is time enough for geology to reshape continents, for evolution to create entirely new forms of life, for ecosystems to rise and fall and rise again. The climate shifted through the Jurassic, generally remaining warm, but with variations. Pangaea began to split apart, slowly, gradually, centimeter by centimeter per year. The process was driven by forces deep within the Earth, convection currents in the mantle, hot rock rising, cool rock sinking, the circulation creating stresses in the overlying crust. Rifts formed, magma welled up, new ocean floor was created. The North Atlantic Ocean began to open between North America and Africa. In the early Jurassic, the world was warm and humid, warmer than the Triassic had been on average. There was no ice at the poles, no glaciers anywhere. The planet was in a greenhouse state. Carbon dioxide levels were several times higher than pre-industrial modern levels. This trapped heat. Global temperatures were perhaps 15 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than today. Sea levels rose. Water expands as it warms. The warm oceans took up more volume, and with no ice caps to lock water away, there was more water in liquid form. Low-lying areas of continents were flooded. Shallow seas formed over what is now dry land. These epicontinental seas covered parts of Europe, North America, and other continents. These seas were rich with life. Sunlight penetrated to the bottom in shallow areas. Photosynthetic organisms bloomed. Ammonites, those shelled cephalopods, spiraled through the water in vast numbers. Some species were tiny, others grew to enormous sizes. Their shells fossilized beautifully, and today we find them in Jurassic rocks, sometimes in concentrations so dense that entire rock layers are made up of crushed ammonite shells. Ichthyosaurs, marine reptiles that looked remarkably like dolphins through convergent evolution, hunted fish and squid. They were warm-blooded, or at least capable of maintaining elevated body temperatures. They needed to be. Active pursuit of fast prey requires sustained energy output. They gave birth to live young underwater. Fossils have been found of female ichthyosaurs that died while giving birth. The baby partially emerged, preserved for millions of years in stone. A poignant glimpse of ancient lives. Plesiosaurs swam with powerful flippers, their bodies adapted to underwater flight. The long-necked forms used their necks like fishing rods, reaching down or to the side to snatch prey while their bodies remained relatively stable. The short-necked pliosaurs were ambush predators and pursue hunters, using their massive heads and powerful jaws to attack large prey. On land, the warm climate supported lush vegetation. Forests covered much of the landscape wherever there was adequate moisture. On land, dinosaurs were diversifying rapidly. The sauropodomorphs, the group that would include the largest land animals ever to exist, were growing. In the late Triassic, they had been relatively small, 10 to 20 feet long. By the early Jurassic, some were reaching 40 to 50 feet. By the late Jurassic, they would be giants. Theropods, the two-legged predatory dinosaurs, were diversifying as well. Small, fast hunters like Colophysis, medium-sized predators like Dilophosaurus, and the ancestors of later giants like Tyrannosaurus. Ornithischians, the bird-hipped dinosaurs, despite not being the ancestors of birds, were beginning to appear in greater numbers. Early armored dinosaurs, the ancestors of the horned dinosaurs, the first of the duck-billed dinosaurs. Picture a Jurassic landscape in the middle of the period, around 100 to 70 million years ago. You stand in a forest of conifers, cycads, and ferns. Tree ferns reach high overhead, their fronds creating dappled shade. The air is thick with humidity. Insects buzz and hum. Dragonflies with 2-foot wingspans cruise past your head. In the distance, you hear a low, rumbling call. It resonates through your chest. The ground trembles slightly. Through the trees, you glimpse movement. Something massive. A sauropod, perhaps 50 feet long, moving slowly through the forest. Its long neck reaches high into the trees, stripping branches of their foliage. Its tail, equally long, balances the weight of its neck and body. This might be a species like Cetiosaurus, one of the Middle Jurassic sauropods discovered in England. Not the largest of its kind, but still enormous, weighing perhaps 15 to 20 tons. Moving on 4 pillar-like legs, each footstep creating a deep impression in the soft earth. Sauropods were remarkable animals. They faced a fundamental engineering challenge: how to be large, very large, enormously large, larger than any land animal before or since. Part of the answer was in their bones. Sauropod bones were not solid. They were filled with air sacs, similar to bird bones. This made them lighter than solid bones would have been, while still maintaining strength. Their necks contained 10, 15, even 19 vertebrae in some species, each bone carefully shaped to interlock with its neighbors while remaining light. Another part of the answer was in their metabolism. They ate constantly. Their long necks allowed them to reach food without moving their bodies. They could stand in one place and simply swing their necks from side to side, stripping a wide area of vegetation. They did not chew. Their teeth were designed for stripping and raking, not grinding. They swallowed vegetation whole. In their guts, stones called gastroliths helped grind the food. Their digestive systems fermented plant matter, extracting nutrients slowly and thoroughly. They were living composters, breaking down tons of vegetation every day. And then there were the giants of the late Jurassic. Let time drift forward. We move from 170 million years ago to 150 million years ago. 20 million years pass in your imagination like a single breath. The climate has grown slightly drier. Pangaea continues to fragment. The landscape changes. We arrive in the late Jurassic of North America. What is now Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, and Montana. But it does not look like those places today. The climate is subtropical, seasonal but warm. There are wet seasons and dry seasons. Rivers flow from mountains to the east, spreading across broad floodplains, creating a landscape of channels and temporary lakes. This is the world of the Morrison Formation, the most famous dinosaur ecosystem ever discovered, preserved in stone, waiting 150 million years to be found. Here, sauropods reached their peak. Brachiosaurus, with its giraffe-like posture, front legs longer than hind legs, neck angled up and back. Imagine it standing 80 feet long, raising its head 40 feet into the air, weighing perhaps 50 to 80 tons, the weight of 12 or more elephants concentrated in a single animal. Diplodocus, even longer but lighter than Brachiosaurus, 90 feet from nose to tail tip, much of that length in its extraordinarily long neck and even longer tail. The tail likely used as a weapon, the thin tip cracking like a whip to deter predators. Imagine the sound of that tail whipping through the air, the crack of it breaking the sound barrier. Apatosaurus, formerly known as Brontosaurus. The name recently reinstated after detailed studies showed it was distinct from Apatosaurus after all, 70 to 90 feet long, more robust than Diplodocus, weighing 40 to 50 tons, moving through the Morrison landscape in herds perhaps, or in family groups, adults towering over juveniles, the youngest only as large as horses, the oldest massive beyond easy comprehension. Try to picture these animals in motion, not slow and lumbering, but moving with the deliberate grace of elephants, taking steps that cover 8 to 10 feet, their tails swinging gently behind them for balance, their necks moving in slow arcs as they browse. Now imagine coming across a herd of them at a river. Dozens of sauropods of various species and ages, some drinking, some crossing, some simply standing in the shallow water, perhaps cooling themselves. The air filled with low rumbling vocalizations, communication between herd members, the ground vibrating with each footfall. This was the reality of the late Jurassic. This was what Earth looked like. This actually happened. These animals truly existed. They were not fantasy. They were not mythology. They were flesh and blood and bone. They breathed air. They ate and drank and reproduced. They lived and died. And we know this because we have found their bones, their footprints, the fossilized remains of their passage through time. Of course, where there are giant herbivores, there must be predators. The Morrison Formation was home to Allosaurus, one of the most successful predators of the late Jurassic, 25 to 30 feet long, 1 to 2 tons in weight, built for pursuit and attack, long skull filled with dozens of serrated teeth, powerful neck and jaw muscles, short but strong arms with 3-fingered hands bearing large claws, massive hind legs built for both speed and power. Allosaurus did not hunt alone in packs, probably. The evidence is debated, but multiple Allosaurus individuals have been found associated with some sites. suggesting they may have congregated around carcasses or favorite hunting grounds. Picture an Allosaurus stalking through a late Jurassic forest. Early morning, mist rising from a river. The predator moves slowly, carefully. Its body is horizontal, balanced over its hind legs. Its tail extends behind, slight movements adjusting its balance. Its head scans the environment, eyes focused forward for binocular vision, judging distance. It pauses, listens. The forest is not silent. Insects drone. Something small rustles in the undergrowth. In the distance, the low call of a sauropod. But the Allosaurus is focused on something else. A scent on the air. Blood. Fresh blood. Perhaps another predator has made a kill. Or perhaps an old sauropod has died. Either way, there is opportunity. The Allosaurus changes direction, moving toward the scent. It walks faster now, less cautious. Other scavengers may already be at the carcass. It needs to arrive and claim what it can. This is how much of a predator's life is spent. Not in dramatic hunts and battles, but in walking, waiting, searching, and scavenging. Taking what opportunities arise, conserving energy when possible, eating when food is available, resting when it is not. Alongside the giants of the Morrison Formation lived smaller dinosaurs that are, in many ways, more interesting to scientists today. Stegosaurus walked these same forests and floodplains, 15 feet long, weighing perhaps 5 tons, famous for the 2 rows of large plates running down its back and the 4 spikes on its tail. The plates were likely for display and possibly temperature regulation. The tail spikes, called the thagomizer, were definitely for defense. A Stegosaurus tail armed with those spikes and swung with the power of a 5-ton animal could inflict devastating injuries. We have found Allosaurus bones with Stegosaurus spike-shaped holes in them. These animals fought each other, predator and prey in an ancient dance. Then there were the early birds. Yes, birds, true birds, in the late Jurassic. Archaeopteryx lived in what is now southern Germany, on islands in a shallow tropical sea. It was about the size of a raven. It had feathers and wings capable of flight, or at least gliding, but it also had teeth, a long bony tail, and clawed fingers on its wings. It was clearly a transitional form between non-avian dinosaurs and modern birds. When the first Archaeopteryx fossil was discovered in 1861, just 2 years after Darwin published On the Origin of Species, it created a sensation. Here was clear evidence of evolution. An animal that was part dinosaur, part bird, a fossil that showed the transition happening. Of course, now we know that Archaeopteryx was just one of many feathered dinosaurs. Many theropods had feathers or feather-like structures. Feathers did not evolve for flight. They evolved first for insulation, for display, for species recognition. Flight came later, as some small theropods began to glide from tree to tree, and natural selection refined their feathers and bodies for that purpose. Breathe slowly. Rest in the late Jurassic. Imagine the nights in this ancient world. The moon hangs in the sky, though it is slightly closer to Earth than it is today. The days are slightly shorter, perhaps 23 hours instead of 24. The stars wheel overhead in unfamiliar patterns. The constellations we know have not formed yet. The stars are in different positions relative to Earth. A sauropod herd settles down for the night. They do not lie down entirely. Animals that large have difficulty rising from a fully prone position. They may lower themselves to rest, but they do not sprawl like a sleeping dog. They drowse standing or in a semi-reclined position. A stegosaurus finds a clear area and settles down, folding its legs beneath its body. Its tail, with those dangerous spikes, extends behind, a deterrent to any predator that might think a sleeping stegosaurus is easy prey. An allosaurus, having fed earlier in the day, rests in the shelter of a fallen log. Its eyes close, but not completely. Predators sleep lightly, always partially alert, always ready to respond to opportunity or danger. And in the trees, small mammals hide, furry creatures no larger than rats or shrews. They are nocturnal, emerging at night when the dinosaurs are less active. They hunt insects. They eat seeds and fruits. They are insignificant in this dinosaur-dominated world, but they are the ancestors of all modern mammals, including humans. They are our many great-grandparents, hiding in the shadows, surviving, waiting. The Jurassic period came to an end 145 million years ago, not with a mass extinction this time, but with a gradual transition into the Cretaceous period. The Cretaceous would be the last and longest period of the Mesozoic era. It would last from 145 to 66 million years ago, 79 million years, longer than both the Triassic and Jurassic combined. Time enough for continents to drift far apart. Time enough for entirely new groups of dinosaurs to evolve. Time enough for the world to change in profound ways. In the early Cretaceous, the fragmenting of Pangaea continued. South America was separating from Africa. India was drifting northward. Australia was still connected to Antarctica, but that connection would not last. The Atlantic Ocean grew wider. New oceans opened. These geographic changes had biological consequences. Dinosaur populations became isolated on different continents. They evolved in different directions. Groups that might have been similar at the end of the Jurassic became increasingly distinct as the Cretaceous progressed. The climate remained warm globally. There was no ice at the poles. Sea levels were high, higher than today. Much of the interior of continents was covered by shallow seas. These seaways were rich with marine life. Giant marine reptiles ruled these seas. Mosasaurs, relatives of modern monitor lizards, but adapted to a fully aquatic lifestyle, some reaching 50 feet in length. Plesiosaurs with long necks and barrel-shaped bodies. Sea turtles 10 feet across. On land, flowering plants appeared for the first time. Angiosperms, plants that produce flowers and fruits. They evolved in the early Cretaceous and spread rapidly, changing the face of Earth's vegetation. By the late Cretaceous, flowering plants dominated many ecosystems. This had profound effects on dinosaurs. New food sources became available: fruits and nuts, new kinds of leaves and stems. Dinosaurs adapted to exploit these new resources. Duck-billed dinosaurs, or hadrosaurs, evolved complex batteries of teeth perfect for grinding plant matter. Horned dinosaurs developed powerful beaks and jaw muscles for shearing tough vegetation. And alongside these herbivores, new predators evolved, larger, more specialized, more terrifying than anything the Jurassic had produced. The late Cretaceous, from about 100 to 66 million years ago, was the golden age of dinosaur diversity. Let us visit North America in the very late Cretaceous, about 68 to 66 million years ago. The western interior seaway divides the continent in half. East of the seaway is one landmass. West of it is another, sometimes called Laramidia. We will focus on Laramidia, what would become the western United States and Canada. The climate is warm and subtropical. Sea breezes, moderate temperatures near the coast. Inland, forests of conifers and flowering trees cover the land. Rivers flow from mountains in the west toward the seaway in the east. Floodplains and deltas create rich habitats. This is the world of the Hell Creek Formation in what is now Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota, one of the most studied dinosaur ecosystems ever discovered, preserved in rock, the last chapter of the Age of Dinosaurs. Here lived Triceratops, 9 meters long, 6 to 12 tons, a massive skull with 2 long brow horns and a shorter nose horn, a bony frill extending back from the skull, large enough to cover the shoulders, 4 sturdy legs, a body like a living tank. Triceratops was a ceratopsian, a member of the horned dinosaur family. They traveled in herds based on fossil evidence, dozens or hundreds of individuals moving together, grazing on low vegetation. The horns were used in combat with each other, establishing dominance, competing for mates, and probably in defense against predators. Those successful defenses leave no fossil record, so we can only infer. Picture a herd of Triceratops moving across an open plain, adults forming a protective circle around juveniles when danger threatens, their horns pointed outward, their massive bodies creating a wall of living armor. And what danger might threaten a Triceratops? What predator would dare attack something so large and well defended? Tyrannosaurus rex, the tyrant lizard king, perhaps the most famous dinosaur of all, 40 feet long, 6 tons, a skull 5 feet long, filled with teeth the size of bananas, serrated like steak knives, capable of biting with forces estimated at over 12,000 pounds per square inch, more powerful than any other land predator, living or extinct, that we know of. T-Rex is often portrayed as the ultimate predator, unstoppable, relentless. But the reality was more complex. Like all predators, T-Rex faced challenges. Hunting is dangerous. Prey fights back. An injury could lead to starvation. A broken leg meant death. T-Rex was probably both a hunter and a scavenger. It would take whatever opportunities arose. If it could steal a kill from a smaller predator, it would. If it found a dead hadrosaur, it would feed. If it could catch sick or old or young prey, it would hunt. Whatever worked. Whatever kept it alive. Picture a T-Rex moving through a late Cretaceous forest. Its enormous head, with eyes facing forward for depth perception, scans constantly. Its tiny arms, much maligned in popular culture, were actually quite strong and may have been used for gripping prey or helping the animal rise from a resting position. Its massive hind legs power its movement. Studies suggest it could move at perhaps 15 to 25 miles per hour for short bursts. Not as fast as often depicted, but fast enough. Its sense of smell was extraordinary. The olfactory bulbs in its brain, reconstructed from skull fossils, were enormous. It could likely smell a carcass from miles away, and its hearing was acute, adapted to detect low-frequency sounds. The footfalls of large dinosaurs, the vocalizations of prey, alongside T-Rex and Triceratops, Hell Creek was home to many other dinosaurs. Ankylosaurus, the heavily armored dinosaur, covered in bony plates and spikes, with a massive club on the end of its tail. Imagine a Tyrannosaurus approaching an Ankylosaurus. The armored dinosaur crouches low, protecting its unarmored belly. If the T-Rex gets too close, the Ankylosaurus swings its tail club, potentially breaking the predator's leg. A battle between armor and teeth. Edmontosaurus, a duck-billed dinosaur, one of the largest hadrosaurs, 40 feet long, several tons, living in herds, capable of running on its hind legs when threatened. Its skull and jaws packed with hundreds of tiny teeth arranged in batteries, perfect for grinding plant matter. Its brain cavity suggests good senses and perhaps complex social behavior. Pachycephalosaurus, the thick-headed dinosaur with a domed skull 10 inches thick. The purpose of this dome is debated. Head-butting contests between males like modern rams, flank butting for defense, display, all of the above. The dome suggests impacts, but the exact behaviors remain mysterious. And in the skies above Hell Creek, pterosaurs soared. Not dinosaurs, though often grouped with them. Pterosaurs were a separate lineage of reptiles that evolved powered flight independently of birds. By the late Cretaceous, some pterosaurs had become enormous. Quetzalcoatlus, one of the largest, had a wingspan of 35 to 40 feet, as wide as a small airplane. It was a terrestrial stalker when not flying, walking on all fours, hunting small animals. Imagine looking up to see a Quetzalcoatlus gliding overhead, wings outstretched, nearly silent in flight, its long neck extending forward, its head crested. It soars on updrafts, searching for food below. Then it folds its wings and descends, landing with surprising grace, folding those enormous wings against its body and stalking forward on its four limbs. A flying giraffe, someone has called it. An apt description. This was the world of the late Cretaceous. Diverse, complex, stable. Dinosaurs had been the dominant land animals for over 160 million years. They showed no signs of decline. They were as diverse as they had ever been, occupying every terrestrial ecological niche, small and large, herbivore, carnivore, omnivore, fast and slow, armored and agile. And then, 66 million years ago, the world ended. Not the Earth itself, not all life, but the world as it had been. The age of dinosaurs came to a sudden and catastrophic conclusion. On a day like any other, a day near the end of the Cretaceous, something appeared in the sky. A point of light growing rapidly brighter, larger, moving impossibly fast. An asteroid, perhaps 6 to 10 miles in diameter, traveling at tens of thousands of miles per hour on a collision course with Earth. It struck near what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The impact released energy equivalent to billions of nuclear weapons. The asteroid vaporized instantly. A crater over 100 miles wide was blasted into the Earth's crust. Rock was melted, vaporized, thrown into the atmosphere and into space. A wall of superheated air radiated outward from the impact site. Everything within hundreds of miles was incinerated instantly. Forests burst into flame. Animals were killed by the heat and pressure. The shockwave traveled around the world. Tsunamis hundreds of feet high swept across the Gulf of Mexico and beyond. Earthquakes shook the planet. Volcanic eruptions were triggered by the impact's seismic waves. But the worst was yet to come. The vaporized rock and dust thrown into the atmosphere began to fall back to Earth. As it fell through the atmosphere, friction heated it. The entire sky began to glow. The temperature at ground level rose, as if the whole planet were inside an oven. Anything that had survived the initial impact was now baked or burned by this re-entry heating. Forests that had not been destroyed by the shockwave now burned, Animals that had sought shelter were cooked alive or suffocated as the fires consumed oxygen. And then the dust settled. It hung in the atmosphere, blocking sunlight. The world grew dark, cold. Photosynthesis slowed and stopped. Plants died. Herbivores starved. Carnivores, having nothing to eat, starved in turn. This darkness, this impact winter, may have lasted months or even years. When sunlight finally returned, the world had changed. Approximately 75% of all species had gone extinct. The non-avian dinosaurs were gone. All of them. Every species, from the mighty Tyrannosaurus to the smallest bird-like theropods, the giant sauropods, the horned ceratopsians, the duck-billed hadrosaurs, the armored ankylosaurs, gone. The pterosaurs were extinct. The marine reptiles were extinct. Many species of plants were extinct. Entire ecosystems had collapsed. Only a few lineages survived. Small mammals, hiding in burrows, able to survive on scarce food. Some birds, the small flying descendants of theropod dinosaurs. Some reptiles, like crocodiles and turtles. Some amphibians, fish, insects. These survivors would inherit the new world. Let the weight of this moment rest on you. 100 to 60 million years of dinosaur evolution. Countless species, trillions upon trillions of individual animals, an entire world of ecosystems and interactions and life, gone in a geological instant. The rock record shows this boundary clearly. It is called the KPG boundary, the line between the Cretaceous and Paleogene periods. You can visit sites where this boundary layer is exposed, a thin layer of clay separating the Cretaceous rocks below from the Paleogene rocks above. In the Cretaceous rocks, you find dinosaur fossils. In the Paleogene rocks, you do not. The boundary layer itself is enriched in iridium, an element rare on Earth's surface, but common in asteroids. Physical evidence of the impact. The dinosaurs, except for birds, were gone, but life itself was not ended. In fact, the extinction of the dinosaurs created opportunities for other groups. Mammals, which had lived in the shadow of dinosaurs for over 160 million years, now diversified rapidly. Within 10 million years, mammals had evolved into forms occupying many of the ecological roles dinosaurs had held. Grazers and browsers, predators and prey, climbers and diggers and swimmers. And among those mammals, much later, would evolve a lineage of primates. And among those primates would evolve a species that could walk upright, use tools, control fire, develop language, create art, and eventually, 65 million years after the extinction, dig up the fossilized bones of dinosaurs and reconstruct their lost world. So what do we truly know about dinosaurs? And how do we know it? We know dinosaurs from their fossils, bones that have turned to stone over millions of years. When a dinosaur died, if conditions were right, its body might be buried in sediment, soft tissues decayed, but bones sometimes remained. Minerals in groundwater slowly infiltrated the bones, replacing the original bone material with stone while preserving the structure. The result is a fossil, not the original bone, but a stone replica of the bone. We find these fossils in sedimentary rocks. We identify them. We excavate them carefully, often spending weeks or months removing a single skeleton from the rock. We bring them to museums and universities. We study them. We measure them. We compare them to other fossils and to modern animals. We use computer simulations to model how they might have moved, how their jaws might have functioned, how much they might have weighed. We also have Trace fossils, footprints preserved in ancient mud that hardened into stone, trackways showing how dinosaurs moved, how fast they walked or ran, whether they traveled alone or in groups. We have fossilized eggs and nests, showing how dinosaurs reproduced and cared for their young. We have coprolites, fossilized feces, which can tell us what dinosaurs ate. In rare cases, we have soft tissue preservation, not actual flesh, but impressions or chemical traces. Fossilized skin impressions showing scales or feathers. Chemical analysis suggesting original pigments, giving us clues about what colors some dinosaurs might have been. From all this evidence, we reconstruct. We make educated guesses. We debate and revise. Our understanding of dinosaurs has changed dramatically over the decades. Once portrayed as slow and stupid, we now see them as active and complex. Once shown as scaly lizards, we now depict many with feathers. Once thought to be evolutionary dead ends, we now recognize birds as their living descendants. Every fossil tells a story. Every discovery adds detail to our picture of the past. But there is so much we will never know. What sounds did they make? What colors were they? How did they interact socially? What were their lives like day to day? These questions may never be fully answered. We can infer, but we cannot know with certainty. And yet, what we do know is extraordinary. We know that dinosaurs existed, that they were diverse and successful, that they dominated the planet for over 100 to 60 million years, that they evolved into forms ranging from chicken-sized predators to animals larger than any land creature before or since, that some of them survive today as birds, that their extinction was sudden and catastrophic, and that in the empty spaces they left behind, our own ancestors found opportunities to grow and change and eventually become us. As you drift towards sleep, picture the deep past. Imagine time as a vast ocean stretching out before you. Not an ocean of water, but an ocean of moments, seconds flowing into minutes, minutes into hours, hours into days, days into years, years into centuries, centuries into millennia, millennia into millions of years. We live on the surface in the present moment, this very instant, now. Already it's gone, receding into the past, becoming memory, becoming history, sinking beneath the waves of time. Beneath us, layers of time descend into darkness. The recent past, still visible in the clear water near the surface. Your childhood, your parents' youth, your grandparents' stories, all within reach of living memory. The light penetrates here. We can see clearly. Deeper, the light grows dim. Recorded history, the Middle Ages, ancient Rome, ancient Egypt, the first cities, the invention of writing. This layer is still accessible through written records, through archaeology, through careful reconstruction. 5,000 years of human civilization, spread out in the depths, but still illuminated by our curiosity and scholarship. Deeper still, and the light fades almost to nothing. Prehistory, before writing, before cities, when humans lived in small bands, hunter-gatherers following seasonal migrations of animals and plants, stone tools and cave paintings are all that remain to tell us of those times. 10,000 years ago, 20,000, 50,000. The light is very faint here. We can make out only shadows and shapes, and then, deeper, the absolute darkness of deep time, millions of years, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. Here, in these depths, human history does not exist, could not exist. The world was fundamentally different. The very land was arranged differently. The climate was alien. The forms of life were strange beyond imagining. Somewhere in those depths, in layers of time laid down over 230 to 66 million years ago, dinosaurs lived. They were real as you are now. They breathed air. They felt the sun on their skin. They experienced hunger and thirst. They felt pain when injured. They felt pleasure when mating. They cared for their young in many species. They interacted with each other in complex ways we can only partially reconstruct. They walked on the same planet we inhabit, not the same continents, not in the same positions, not the same climate or vegetation, but the same planet Earth, the same rock and water and air, the same elements, carbon and oxygen and nitrogen, hydrogen and calcium and phosphorus, the same atoms arranged differently, but fundamentally the same building blocks. They breathed oxygen produced by plants, just as we do. They exhaled carbon dioxide, just as we do. They were part of the same carbon cycle that sustains all life. Atoms that were once part of dinosaur bodies have since been incorporated into countless other organisms, plants, animals, perhaps even into you. The carbon in your cells has been recycled through the biosphere for billions of years. Some of it was certainly part of ancient organisms. Some of it may have been part of dinosaurs. We are connected to them, not directly, not through ancestry in our case, but through the web of life that connects all organisms, through the physical recycling of matter, through our shared origin in the early evolution of life on Earth, through the fact that we and they were both shaped by natural selection, both products of evolution, both temporary arrangements of matter that achieved consciousness and experience. The mammals that survived the extinction 66 million years ago were our ancestors, small, furry creatures, hiding in burrows, emerging at night, eating insects and seeds. They survived the catastrophe that killed the dinosaurs, and in the aftermath, in the empty world, they evolved and diversified. They grew larger, they filled ecological niches, and eventually, much later, one lineage of these mammals evolved into primates, and one lineage of primates evolved into humans. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs cleared the way for us. If it had missed Earth, if it had passed by harmlessly, dinosaurs might still dominate the planet today. They showed no signs of decline in the late Cretaceous. They were diverse and successful. There is no reason to think they would have gone extinct without that external catastrophe. In that alternate timeline, mammals might still be small creatures hiding from dinosaur predators. Primates might never have evolved. Humans certainly would not exist. Your existence, in a very real sense, depended on that asteroid impact 66 million years ago. On that moment of catastrophe and mass death, something terrible that cleared space for something new. This is the nature of life on Earth, contingent, dependent on chance and circumstance. The history of life is not a straight line toward us. It is a branching tree with countless limbs, most of which end in extinction. Dinosaurs were one large limb that grew for 165 million years and then was severed abruptly, violently, by cosmic chance. But one small branch from that limb continued. The birds, flying dinosaurs that survived when all their relatives perished. They carry forward the dinosaur lineage to this day. Every robin and sparrow and eagle and penguin is a living dinosaur, a member of the only dinosaur lineage that endured. Think about that tomorrow when you see a bird. That small creature is a direct descendant of dinosaurs. Its ancestors survived the catastrophe. It carries within its body the legacy of the Mesozoic era. Its bones are light and hollow like sauropod bones. Its metabolism is high like predatory theropods. Its behavior, its care for its young, its vocalizations, all echo patterns established millions of years ago. Rest now in this understanding. You are part of the story. You are not separate from nature. You are nature. You are part of the great unfolding of complexity and diversity that began with the first living cells billions of years ago and continues through you in this moment. The age of dinosaurs was one chapter in that story, a long, magnificent, strange chapter, a chapter of giants and monsters and creatures beyond imagination, a chapter that ended in fire and darkness and silence. But the story continued. It always continues. Life finds a way. Life persists through catastrophes. Life adapts to new conditions. Life diversifies into empty spaces. Life experiments with new forms. Life changes. Life endures. The dinosaurs are gone, but their fossils remain. Bones turn to stone. Evidence of a lost world. Fragments of deep time. Messages from the past reaching forward to us. Proof that the world was once different than it is now. Proof that it will be different in the future than it is today. Proof that change is constant, that nothing lasts forever, but that existence itself, in all its forms, is precious and remarkable and worth contemplating. You carry within you the legacy of billions of years of evolution, the first cells that learned to capture energy from sunlight, the first animals that developed nervous systems, the first vertebrates that crawled onto land, the synapsids that survived the Permian extinction, the mammals that survived the Cretaceous extinction, the primates that developed larger brains, the hominids that learned to walk upright, the humans that developed language and culture. All of this history is encoded in your DNA. All of these ancestors contributed to making you possible. Breathe slowly. Feel your own body. This remarkable collection of cells working together. This consciousness arising from electrical patterns in your brain. This temporary arrangement of matter that can think about dinosaurs that lived millions of years ago, that can wonder at deep time, that can contemplate extinction and survival and the vast sweep of evolutionary history. You are made of atoms forged in stars. Those stars exploded billions of years ago, scattering their material into space. That material eventually coalesced into our solar system, into the planet Earth, into the minerals and water that make up the physical world, into the bodies of living things, into the dinosaurs, into the mammals that survived them, into you. Every atom of carbon in your body was once inside a star. Every atom of oxygen you breathe was created by stellar fusion. You are literally made of stardust. And so were the dinosaurs. And so are the birds. And so is everything alive. We are all made of the same ancient materials, rearranged in countless ways across billions of years. Let this thought be a comfort as you sink into sleep. You are part of something vast, connected to everything that has ever lived. A small part of a great story that began with the Big Bang and continues through you and will continue long after you are gone. The matter that makes up your body will return to the earth. It will be recycled. It will become part of other organisms. Your atoms will persist. They will be rearranged. They will participate in future stories we cannot imagine. The story continues. It continues in you, in this moment, in your breath, deep and slow, in your heartbeat, steady and strong, in your dreams that will come soon, carrying you through the night, in your existence, brief and precious and connected to everything. Sleep now. Rest. Let your mind settle into the rhythm of night. Let your body relax into comfort. Let your thoughts grow quiet. You have traveled back through deep time tonight. You have visited the age of dinosaurs. You have seen creatures that truly existed. You have contemplated vast spans of time and the resilience of life. Now return to the present. Return to this moment. Return to rest. Thank you for listening with Sleepy Facts. Let your breath steady. Let your thoughts grow quiet. Rest smarter by allowing your mind to settle into the rhythm of night. If you enjoyed this moment of calm, you are welcome to subscribe. And if there is a topic you want to hear next, simply leave it in the comments. Wishing you a peaceful night and gentle dreams.